How strong is the Christian Zionist lobby in the US, and what impact do you think they have on sort of US foreign policy?
Well, they have an enormous influence on the Republican Party, and their foreign policy is really a reflection of not only their domestic policy, but of the subculture of the movement that substantially controls the Republican Party, which is the Christian right. Christian Zionism grows out of the premillennial tendency of the Christian right. Those who believe, the majority of evangelicals who believe that the return of Christ could come at any time, and his return is hearkened or foreshadowed by a series of dispensations, which can come in the form of massive world wars or natural disasters, or I don't know, a teapot boiling, or the figure of Jesus appearing in a deodorant stick. These are, those are ridiculous examples, but they're not totally baseless. The main area that Christian Zionists focus on, of course, is war. They've reinterpreted the book of Revelations, which was not originally in the Bible, into a modern-day context, in which the battle of Gog and Magog will include Russia, China, and I think the Sudan, against Israel, which will destroy the Russian Air Force, the entire Russian Air Force, with the hand of God in a swift stroke. Of course, this all eventually leads to Jesus coming down to his landing pad on the hill of Megiddo, all Jews except 144,000 being offered the opportunity to convert or burn in an everlasting lake of fire, which is everlasting, which means that eventually I think you get used to being in a lake of fire and adapt to it, and so it doesn't suck so bad.
Just to clarify, you're talking about the views of a major political player, a party or movement in the US.
I'm talking about the views which are explicitly outlined, for example, in the books of Pastor John Hagee, who is one of the most important behind-the-scenes movers and shakers in the Republican Party, who hosts leading Republican primary candidates, from Newt Gingrich to Mike Huckabee, who ran in 2008, to Michelle Bachmann at his megachurch in San Antonio, and who funds the Israeli settlement industry, who funds right-wing enterprise, who funds right-wing groups inside Israel, and who influences Texas politics substantially. And this is a guy who said, after John McCain went out, this was the GOP nominee, the Republican nominee in 2008, sought out Hagee's endorsement, and you can see all Hagee and all his supporters in my video, Rapture Ready, which you mentioned, that the Holocaust was a divinely ordained phenomenon designed to bring the Jews into what is now Israel and fulfill biblical prophecy in order to bring about revelation and the return of Christ. So he was essentially, through this theological cover, celebrating the Holocaust. It forced John McCain to withdraw his endorsement, but so it's a little bit too weird for John McCain to have this guy around, but the rest of the Republicans are completely okay with him. And not only that, at the most recent Christians United for Israel gathering in Washington, 3 leading members of AIPAC, who are, their strategists, were on stage with Hagee, led panels, and this shows what's really going on. AIPAC has helped Hagee set up his organization in Washington, which is run by David Bragg, a Jew who claims that he's Hagee's brother in spirit, who is the former chief of staff for Senator Arlen Specter, retired Senator Arlen Specter of Pennsylvania, who was one of the closest allies of AIPAC on Capitol Hill. So you see what's going on. This is an incredibly dangerous movement with anti-Semitism at its base, and it's being supported through logistical means, know-how, and infrastructure by AIPAC, the official arm of the Israel lobby. And when Pastor Hagee brought his people to Jerusalem in 2009, when on the heels of Joe Biden's visit, when he was going to demand a settlement freeze, Prime Minister Netanyahu appeared before Hagee and his flock, along with the mayor of Jerusalem, Nir Barkat, and he said, we support you, Pastor Hagee, and the Jewish people support you. So speaking on behalf of the Jewish people, Netanyahu supports an anti-Semite. They'll support any anti-Semite. They'll welcome any anti-Semite as long as he is in favor of dispossessing more Arabs. And I mean, look who's who's just dropped in on Jerusalem this week. Glenn Beck, a guy who promotes the work of Elizabeth Dilling, who wrote constantly of a worldwide Jewish conspiracy of the Rothschilds and international communists, who's special on George Soros, the hedge fund billionaire and political financier, was a symphony of anti-Semitic dog whistles, and he's been welcomed with open arms by the Israeli Knesset. All we have to do is look at the evidence that this alliance, there's this long-standing alliance of anti-Semites and Zionists, classical anti-Semites. And, you know, when Zionist groups talk about anti-Semitism, what are they talking about? They're only talking about Arab anti-Semitism. Of course, the Arab world is the chief vehicle for anti-Semitism at this point, but it's not a cause of the conflict. It's simply a byproduct or an effect. So they don't really do much good by spending so much resources on it.